and we're going to stick the 650 and the E31 through its paces and see which one wins out on those corners. One with a limited slip differential and one without. Hello and welcome to Tim's BMW Repairs and Information. Now normally I do these linked from outside the car, but it's absolutely freezing today and next door's making an awful racket putting a conservatory up. So we're in the car today, which is a good place to be because we're talking about differentials. Well, today's video attempts to answer the question, why didn't the 650i get a limited slip differential when much lesser cars did? Now I'm in quite a sort of strange position, of course, because I've driven for years with an open differential on this car, and now I've got a limited slip differential. What difference has it made to the car? But the most important question is, how for goodness sake did BMW make the 650i go round corners so quickly without a limited slip differential? Well, today what we're going to do is we're going to have a good old blasting up the road. Got a set of corners, a left-right switchback, and we're going to stick the 650 and the E31 through its paces and see which one wins out on those corners. One with a limited slip differential and one without. Well, before we can say what does a limited slip differential do for you, we got to ask, what does a differential do for you? Well, it transmits power from the drive shaft to the rear wheels, obviously, and it shares torque between them. So with both wheels firmly on the ground, when I'm putting 100 Newton meters of power through the drive shaft, then each wheel's getting 50 Newton meters through them, which is great. The only problem is if one of the wheels is on something very slippery like ice, or we're taking a very sharp corner and there's absolutely no weight on it at all, then it can just spin up, and that 100 Newton meters is lost because there's no force for the engine and drive shaft to act against, so we don't produce any torque anywhere. So that's why cars that have got one tyre stuck in the mud just don't go anywhere. You get one wheel spinning and the other one doing absolutely nothing at all. So what can a limited slip differential do for us in that same situation where you've got a wheel on a very low traction surface, or you're going around the corner so sharply that you're losing weight on the inside wheel? Well, with a limited slip differential you have preload, and that guarantees you'll get torque on the wheel which does get traction, and the torque's limited to its preload amount. But more importantly than that is that it allows the limited slip differential to put more power through the wheel which is getting torque through it, and that's set by its percentage rate. It's all sounding a bit confusing, but basically a limited slip differential gives power to the wheel which has got traction in preference to the one which doesn't. Now, where a limited slip differential really does come into its own and helps the driver is on quite sharp corners where you want to put power down. So we're going to come up to a corner here, and it's going to be a sharp left and then a sharp right. Now on the sharp left, that wheel is going to lift slightly, you get less traction through it. That means more torque gets put through that one. And that of course pushes the car around the corner. Now, as we slap over to the right hand, then the weight's transferred to the other side, and we start putting more power through that wheel to push us round the corner. And you'll see what I mean as we come up to it here. Right, into Steptronic, third gear. Right, as we go around this corner, put power on, and it's actually pushing me. You can actually feel it pushing the car to the left. And on this right hander, when you put power on, yeah, you feel it push the car to the right, and you get so much better control. So on a right hand corner, car's putting much more weight onto this side of the car, the left hand side of the car, and more torque is being put into this wheel than there is being put into the other wheel, which is light and possibly losing traction. So in effect the car's being pushed from this side. It's as though I'm pushing the car from this angle, and that's going to push it round a right hand corner. Okay, so we're coming up to that corner again. Now in the E31 with the limited slip differential, as we went round a sharp left hand corner, power's transferred to the right hand wheel to push us round the corner. And as we went through the right hand corner, power was transferred to the left hand wheel. Now we haven't got limited slip differential, so what happens on this sharp left hand corner when the left hand wheel starts losing traction? And what happens when we go around the right hand corner when the right hand wheel starts losing traction? So here we go, same corner, third gear, and as we go around this corner and I put my foot down, you can still feel the car actually pull you round the corner. Now obviously we haven't got a slip differential, so how is it doing this? It is very clever. Unfortunately slowed down by an inferior vehicle ahead, of course. Okay then, 650, how does that system work? It hasn't got a limited slip differential, but it gets around the corners pretty well. And of course it's a sports car. This is a 650i Sport, 360 something horsepower. It's really going to put some energy into these back wheels. So how do we stop these wheels spinning up when the weight is all transferred to the other rear wheel? Well, that's quite simple. It just sticks the brake on. Yet the stability control systems have the ability to just stick a single brake on. So it can put the brake on this wheel and leave the brake on the other wheel off. And this has been done right from the E31. The E31 in about 1992 got the ASC plus T system, and that could do the same as a special valve body that can direct brake fluid to certain places under control of the computer system. So in this situation, when we're going round a right hand corner and the weight is all lost on this wheel, then what we can do is we can just put the brake on this wheel, and that will then transfer the torque to the left hand side so that it will push you round the corner. And you might think, well, you're just throwing energy away by putting a brake on, and you are to a certain extent. But if you think of a situation where you're going around a sharp right hand corner, you're putting all the power you can on and you spin this wheel up, well, that just loses you all the torque with an open differential. It just all disappears and you get very, very little torque going to the left hand wheel. Whereas if you brake this, then the torque is transferred to the left hand side, and so you get more power out of the left hand wheel. So even though we're using a braking system to increase energy to the other wheel, it's much better than just losing all the energy with a wheel that just spins on the inside. In some ways it's better to look at it from the other direction, in that an open differential always shares torque 50-50 left and right side. Now if we put a brake on this wheel, the drivetrain has to provide torque to overcome the braking force. And because of the 50-50 split, the same amount of torque is applied to the other wheel, and that will get you round the corner. Without the brake, we're losing torque on both left and right wheels, whereas with a brake on, we're providing torque to the driven wheel, the one which has got the best traction. Right, let's pit the two cars against each other now. So I did 4 runs in each car and I picked the fastest. So let's stick one on top of the other, and we'll stop it here just where the chevrons are, and now we can lock the two videos together to the millisecond, and we'll start running again at slow speed. Difficult to tell exactly which one's in front at this point. But then we see the railing on the right hand side, and it looks like the 650 is just a smidge in front. Of course it's quite a sharp bend at this point, and both putting the power down. And the first thing that we notice here is the 840 is quite a bit in front, where this white line's painted on the path beside the car. But it's straightening out now, and the 650 can put down much more power than the 840 can. About 100 horsepower more through a 6-speed box instead of a 5-speed. And by the time we get to the sharp right hand corner, yeah, that 650's well in front. Yeah, the 840 had no chance there. And I bet you're all sitting there thinking, well, why didn't you turn the dynamic traction control off, the automatic stability control plus traction off on the 840 Ci? Well, it's not the done thing to go round sharp corners on a public road and go sideways round them. Yet people really don't like that much. And also the possibility of actually sticking in a hedge either. No, they're not good things to try on public roads. Without DTC, the 650 is an absolute beast. I mean, it's not like the old iron V8s where it used to be all low down torque. Unfortunately, these engines are a lot snappier. And what I mean by that is once they start losing traction, the engine ends up in the power band and you lose traction in a big way. Yeah, and I've had a good go of this car without dynamic traction control. It's okay for a couple of seconds, but no, it's not something I'd recommend. They put a lot of electronics in these cars for a good reason. And with this much power and being a very sort of power band orientated engine, then you'd need all that electronics to keep going. Of course, another thing worth saying is in the 840 Ci, I kept the ASC Plus T switched on all the time. And that's for exactly the same reason that with a limited slip differential, if you start losing traction, you lose traction on both rear wheels. And again, we're on public roads, and it's not the done thing to go sideways around public roads or to end up in a hedge on a public road. So that's good reason to keep the electronics working. Both ASC Plus T and DTC on the 650 does a lot more than just stick individual brakes on. It's also got control over engine power. On the 650i, that's quite simple. It's got a fly-by-wire throttle system, and the DSC just tells the ECU to reduce engine power, which it will do absolutely immediately. On the 840 Ci, of course, it's got cable-operated throttle, and it's not quite so easy. What it has to employ is a secondary throttle butterfly, which is before the main throttle butterfly, and that's controlled by the ASC Plus T, and it can open and close the throttle very quickly, and that's designed to stop wheel slip on both cars. Even if you've got a brake absolutely stuck full on, when you've got nearly 400 horsepower, you can pretty much brake that. And so the DSC and the ASC Plus T both can control engine power very quickly. Now, this brings us to the start of the video where I said I've driven the 840 Ci both with and without a limited slip differential. What difference did it make? Well, it was quite profound actually. The car was much more authoritative in the corners, and accelerating from a straight line felt absolutely planted. But much more than that, and much more importantly, the ASC Plus T doesn't have to control the engine power quite so often. With both axles being driven all the time, then there's much less likelihood of breaking wheel traction, and so ASC Plus T doesn't have to intervene so much, and that means you get much more speed round the corner, which is why the 840 Ci did much better on the very sharp corners than the 650. Wasn't anything to do with power, it's just the fact that wasn't going to have to reduce power in the 840 Ci because both wheels got power going to them all the time. And in fact, on the 840 Ci, I very rarely see the ASC light come on, which I used to with an open differential. Doesn't have to intervene anywhere near as much, whereas with the 650i, when I'm really gunning it, then yeah, the DSC light's flashing away, telling me that it's reducing engine power just in case of brake traction with both wheels, and that's never a good thing with a car of this size. Well, okay, I think we've covered it all. First of all, thanks very much to the people who make comments. I really do enjoy reading them all, and I'm afraid I'm very much behind at the moment. I had so many projects on the go. It's taken 3 weeks to do this video. Yeah, thanks for all the comments, and I will get round to replying them as soon as possible. Thanks for all to my subscribers. Put the thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.